times and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
Highway 90 headed in Fondren. Reports of an accident. Fire crews rolling up to that. Mid-80s for the high today as scattered showers continue to move in out of the Gulf from the southeast going to the northwest. Same pattern as the last couple of days. So those wind patterns continue. Winds right now out of the southeast at 6. And 85 for the high, 76 for the low. 60% chance of rain for Saturday. Again, slight chance of rain Sunday. And then drying out Monday, Tuesday. Some sun, some clouds. Around 90 for the high. 82 Sugarland. 78 here at the University of Houston. Streaming live online, it's KUHF Houston News 88.7. A service of the University of Houston. 9 o'clock.
A new report reveals stark disparities in how kids across Greater Houston experience education, health, safety, and economic opportunity. I'm Craig Cohen. Today on Houston Matters, Children at Risk's Dr. Robert Sanborn joins us to walk through his nonprofit's latest Growing Up in Houston report.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Also this hour, we talk with a pair of Houston area entrepreneurs about lessons they've learned along the way in starting and sustaining their businesses. Plus, from ERCOT projecting record demand on the Texas electric grid this summer to Houston's highways seemingly creating their own temporary microclimates, we contemplate intrigues in the news on the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we preview this weekend's Pride Houston Festival and Parade. We'll start with a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Stocks opened lower this morning after the Labor Department reported another solid month of job gains in May. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped about 190 points in early trading.
U.S. employers added 172,000 jobs last month, while the unemployment rate held steady at a low 4.3%. It was the third month in a row the government reported sizable job gains. Employment figures for March and April were also revised up by a total of 93,000 jobs. Restaurants, healthcare, and local government accounted for much of the hiring in May. Financial services, on the other hand, cut jobs during the month. With signs that the labor market is finding its footing, the Federal Reserve is likely to focus attention on curbing inflation, which has been moving in the wrong direction. That makes it unlikely the Fed will cut interest rates anytime soon, despite persistent calls for a rate cut from President Trump. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
2 days into a U.S. brokered ceasefire, Israel is expanding its target zone in Lebanon. The Israeli military issued new warnings today to villages in southern Lebanon. NPR's Jana Raff reports from Beirut residents were told to leave.
The Israeli military issued urgent warnings to 8 villages in southern Lebanon, telling residents to evacuate their homes ahead of potential airstrikes. They included 2 villages which had not previously received evacuation warnings in this war. Lebanon's state news agency said the Israeli military struck one of the villages shortly after. Video posted on social media showed roads jammed with people leaving one of the biggest villages in the Sidon district after the warnings. The ceasefire reached in Washington Wednesday called on Iran-backed Hezbollah to stop fighting while allowing Israel to continue attacks and remain in South Lebanon. Hezbollah has rejected the agreement. Jana Raff, NPR News, Beirut.
Britain's public spending watchdog says King Charles's disgraced brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, was making money off royal properties while living rent-free. Andrew was evicted from a royal lodge earlier this year as police investigate his ties to late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. NPR's Lauren Frayer reports from London.
Until April, Andrew earned rental income from 3 Windsor estate cottages he was subletting while he lived for free in another one. He also charged rent to his staff. And his daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, who are not working royals, were nevertheless living in royal palaces with their rent paid by their uncle, King Charles. This is all from the public spending watchdog's first report on royal residences in 20 years. Buckingham Palace says the report is in line with its commitment to transparency. Andrew denies wrongdoing in his friendship with Epstein, but is still under police investigation for allegedly passing him secrets. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, London.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Wallace Foundation. an independent, nonpartisan research foundation collaborating with grantees and partners in the arts, school leadership, and youth development. More at wallacefoundation.org. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. There's currently a flood advisory in place for East Houston and some areas along the coast. It's in place for another 40 minutes until 9:45. That's after overnight and early morning storms. Looking at the radar, the storms are still to the north and east of the Houston metro area. Kingwood, Atascocita. We're looking at you if those storms are not already there right now. Overall, there's a 50% chance of rain the rest of the day. Houston and Harris County's public health departments have released a new Ebola-focused dashboard cataloging any cases of Ebola in the area. As our Michael Atkinson reports, the threat to the community is still low.
Public health officials have told Houstonians they don't need to worry about the threat of Ebola ahead of the 2026 World Cup, which begins next week. This new dashboard shows 17 travelers are currently under monitoring in the Houston area, with 0 confirmed cases. The dashboard is only expected to update once a week on Wednesdays, however. That means the next update will come less than 24 hours before the tournament begins. And the next update after that will be after Houston has already hosted 2 matches, including one with the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the virus is spreading. In a press release, Houston's Health Department Director Teresa Tran says Ebola is not a public threat, but that the dashboard provides transparency about the disease. I'm Michael Atkinson, News 88.7.
Despite higher gas prices and flight costs, AAA says Texans are continuing to travel. AAA's Angie Orth says Houstonians can limit their costs by being flexible about their destination and waiting for deals.
The main thing, I think, moving forward for the rest of this year is going to be flexibility.
Orth was speaking on Hello Houston yesterday. According to AAA, about 3.7 million Texans traveled at the start of summer for Memorial Day weekend. In sports, the Astros lost to the Pittsburgh Pirates 5-1 yesterday. They end up dropping 2 out of 3 games in the series. Meanwhile, the NBA Finals resumes tonight in San Antonio. The Spurs are trying to get a win over the New York Knicks. I'm Matt Harab, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here on News 88.7 and Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Coming up this hour, advice for starting and sustaining a business in Houston, and this week's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. First, though, Harris County is home to nearly 1.3 million children, yet a sweeping new report reveals stark disparities in how these kids experience education, health, safety, and economic opportunity, depending on where they grow up. Dr. Robert Sanborn is the president and CEO of Children at Risk. He joins us today to discuss the 18th edition of the nonprofit's Growing Up in Houston report. Bob Sanborn, welcome back to Houston Matters.
Thank you very much, Craig.
This annual report looks at Houston kids' quality of life across factors like education and health and safety and economic stability. First, just broadly, what surprised you most as you compare this year's findings to past years?
Yeah, I think a couple of really good things stood out and a couple of very bad things stood out. And one is that one of the good things is that there's a lot more attention in Houston on early education. And while we still have 80-plus early education deserts, places where it's tough to find childcare for your kids, high-quality childcare and subsidized childcare, it's still, there's a lot of attention being spent, and this is a very good thing. I think the other really positive trend that we see is that in K through 12 education, scores for those kids that are growing up in low-income families, and still we're talking about 70% plus of our children are growing up in low-income families in the greater Houston area, but there's more schools that serve those kids than ever before. That's a very positive trend because we always think about schools as being the way that you pull kids out of poverty, right, if they have high-quality schools. So that's a very good trend. One of the negative things that we see, and some of this is current, is that there are a lot of sort of federal policies that are making it harder to make children more food secure, less hungry, if you will. There's attention being put on school lunches so that they're not free anymore, universally free, school breakfast, that sort of thing. SNAP or the food stamp programs, it's becoming more difficult. It's especially difficult for the majority of our children who are Latino. And so we're seeing some of those things. And that's a trend that we didn't really want to see. I think additionally around health, we Craig, we are still the city in the developed world, the city with the least insured population, and children insured for health. We are the bottom of the barrel in terms of the developed world. And so that is also alarming. Here we are, we have the largest medical center in the world, and yet we really have the lowest security for health amongst our children. So that's a big deal. Mental health, another sort of key thing. A quarter of our kids, all of our kids, sort of have mental health needs, and yet we do a very poor job in terms of counselors in the schools, sort of that first step for mental health. And I think the final thing that's sort of a general trend that we're seeing is sort of this, we have a third of our children in the Houston area that are children of immigrants or immigrants themselves. And this whole demonization of immigration is something that's really having a negative effect on those kids and, frankly, a negative effect on our economy. And so it's one of the trends that we don't want to see, but we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to.
You raised a number of things there, so I want to drill down into each of those, but I'm wondering if there's a connection within a couple of those. You mentioned immigration and the impact that the crackdown on illegal immigration is having on the region's kids. You also mentioned some negative consequences for Latino populations in another category. What do you see those two as connected?
Absolutely. And I think sometimes people like to think that when we focus on immigration, we're only talking about undocumented people and probably just undocumented criminals. But the reality is that we're talking about a lot of non-criminals, So, no one likes someone who's committing a felony, right? But we're talking about a lot of undocumented people that are just part of the workforce. But more important is that even documented legal Latinos are seeing this really traumatic impact from what's going on. And that's affecting everyone. And so people want to separate these things, but it's having this real negative impact on our Latino population. And it's traumatizing a lot of our Latino kids. We're seeing this in numbers that are showing up for school. We're showing this in terms of the difficulty in getting SNAP programs and a whole host of other benefits as well.
Yeah, and again, getting into some of these separate factors when applied to that, I think of something like health. How many aren't seeking out medical care out of fear that they'll be picked up by ICE or something like that?
A lot. And one of the things that we try to reinforce is that in places like hospitals and schools and daycare centers, there's no history of ICE really going into those facilities. And so we try to let the Latino population know that these things aren't happening. But families are scared. Who wants their mom to be deported and you're still here? I think that kids are very worried about these things. So, and even if their mom is a citizen, they still worry that my mom is Latina, what's going to happen there? My dad is Latino, what's going to happen? And so you see anytime that there are parent-teacher conferences, we hear this from teachers, that if ICE is down the road, no one's showing up, And so this is a problem that we probably didn't realize at the outset of all of this, but it's having a dramatic impact on these kids. And when our children don't get breakfast or lunch or don't show up for school, that's going to have this long-term impact on our economy. And, we were very proud of the growth of our city, the growth of our state. That's stopping in many ways because the growth of the Latino population, the biggest part of our child population is Latino. When that stops growing, that means our child population is growing. That means our population as a whole is stopping.
Any other notable demographic disparities to mention?
Well, I think one of the things that, we love to see, how the Asian population is growing. But I think the biggest economic or the biggest disparity population-wise demographic is this idea that the low-income population is such a big part of it. I think a lot of times we focus just on the federal poverty level, but if you look at sort of overall sort of economic disparity, it's very large. 7 out of 10 kids are growing up in low-income families, and that's problematic.
How about geographic disparities? Do we see different educational outcomes across zip codes and neighborhoods, and are there some where things are pretty stark?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question because, we tend to think about sort of the poor neighborhoods, if you will, low-income neighborhoods. And if they have a good school, it's interesting that we see a really bright future for those kids. So if there's high-quality early education, which a lot of low-income neighborhoods will have, leading into good schools, there really is a shot for those kids to be successful, a significant shot. But I think when they don't have access to early education, when they don't have access to then a good school, it's a real problem. Houston ISD has done some really nice things in the past, focused on these low-income schools or these schools that serve low-income families, and that's been fantastic. When you look across the state of Texas, Craig, what's very interesting is that there are really only 3 communities that tend to have done a very good job with public education and low-income families. The Rio Grande Valley has done an excellent job, the Dallas area, and Houston. And some of our other communities, Fort Worth, San Antonio, they're still struggling to sort of make that work. When in Houston, while it's not all of our low-income areas, it's many of them. So we have sort of this formula that's going in the right direction.
What is different about Houston and I guess you said Rio Grande Valley and Dallas versus Fort Worth and San Antonio? What is it that some of these large metro areas are getting right that the others aren't?
Yeah. I think what some of the key things, and you and I have talked about this in the past with the school rankings and everything, but the key things is that leadership, right? Is there an activist superintendent who's saying, hey, we don't want to settle for mediocrity, we're going to do things differently? But the things that they're doing differently are really a focus on good teachers, but time on task. So you'll see longer school days, longer school years, sort of this focus on academic task, this culture of high expectations. We expect these kids to be successful. And then really trying to push the envelope as much as possible, trying new things. And then the other thing that we really see is very quick intervention. When you see kids at the school level, at the classroom level that aren't doing well, there's a quick intervention, tutoring and trying to change things up for those kids. Getting that parental engagement is always very, very important. Not always possible, but that's another key element.
You alluded to some findings in your report about children's mental health.
Yeah.
This has, of course, become a national crisis since the pandemic. That's not new news.
Right.
What does your report outline about the mental and emotional well-being of kids in this region?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's changed there is that, much like we're seeing nationally, people are paying attention to mental health. I think there was a day and a time in Texas where people would say, no, we're Texans, we're fine, we'll pull ourselves up our own bootstraps. But families and public officials are beginning to realize we need to spend time and money and effort focusing on mental health. And that's an important change. I think the other thing that has that we need to change is this recognition that mental health sometimes really shows itself in schools, and we need to have school counselors that can pay attention to this. Right now, a lot of school counselors are doing administrative tasks. Moreover, when we look at the numbers of counselors in our schools, we are far short of national standards. So, the numbers that we have of counselors really need to change. We need to change those counselors in terms of being available for kids, but also let them be available to counsel, not just do administrative tasks.
Greater Houston has lots and lots of school districts.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of municipalities, lots and lots of counties. How does that complexity of government and organization impact the ability to deliver consistent support to children across the region?
Yeah, that's so important, because when you have so many school districts, that means you have to have that many leaders who are going to be those leaders that are really doing new things. And it's very hard in our area. I mean, just in Harris County, I think it's 27 school districts just in that county. And so I think that any time that you can sort of say, what are we going to do, sort of in unison, that's a very good thing. But it's very hard without those leaders saying we're going to do things differently. And so one of the things we see constantly is that a new leader is in this place, they're doing some good jobs, but what's going to be consistent? And then with the school boards being all over the place, I mean, that becomes very tough. Some school districts have a history of doing very well, but I think it's very tough to differentiate those affluent districts and the low-income districts, and making sure that they have that leadership that's going to take them where they need to be.
In light of all of that, what are some realistic, attainable policy changes that you think would make a big difference in the quality of life of Houston's kids?
I think two of the key things that we see right now are that we need to really continue to spend a lot of time on early education. For your public dollar buck, you get a bigger payback with early education, making sure that 6 weeks to 5 years old, kids are getting high quality. Those kids will go on and really be successful academically. So that's a super good investment. The other thing that we see is that we shouldn't be sort of playing games with food programs, right? You'll hear people say, well, how about fraud? And, should they be getting a free school lunch? Should they be getting a free school breakfast? The amount of fraud that's there is so small that it really needs to be we really need to focus on just making sure that everyone who's hungry, who's food insecure, are getting those meals, because if they're hungry, they're not going to do well academically. So that needs to be a policy like, there may be some overlap. Someone may have had breakfast at home or their family could feed them, but we're going to err on the side of making sure everybody gets free breakfast, everyone gets free school lunch, because those are important things. We want our children to be successful, and that's the important thing. And I think there's at some level, no one wants to do anything wrong by kids. We want to make sure every kid is successful, but we're going to have to put our money where our mouth is to make sure that that's happening. We spend a lot of money on a lot of things. We need to be spending it on those things that are going to make our children successful, like food, like early education, K through 12 education. Those are going to be real important things for the success of our children and of our economy.
Dr. Robert Sanborn is the president and CEO of the Houston area nonprofit Children at Risk. Dr. Sanborn, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Up next, the idea of starting a business can be intimidating. In a metro area as widespread as Greater Houston, doubly so. We talk with a pair of area entrepreneurs about the lessons they've learned getting their businesses off the ground. As Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
In 2025, B.B. King had elicited.
You count on Houston Public Media. That's why you're here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 a month or more, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. Baylor's work centers on advancing health and medicine through research, education, and patient care.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, Great Performances presents an unforgettable concert film of Josh Groban at London's historic Union Chapel from November 20th through the 25th. Tonight at 8 on TV8.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Starting a business can feel like a leap of faith, and maybe more than that, maybe like a free fall. There's permits and payroll, landlords and liability, marketing and margins, and no roadmap for any of it. And while that's always been true, today's economic climate with persistent inflation, rising rents, shifting consumer spending, it all makes the stakes feel even higher for Houston's aspiring entrepreneurs. Despite those odds, there are always folks willing to take that dive and open up a business. And today, we've invited a couple of them into our studio to talk about what they've learned along their respective paths to success. Victoria Elizondo is the chef and owner of Cochinita and Company, a Houston restaurant rooted in authentic Mexican cuisine that she built from a pop-up tent into a brick and mortar and now a second location. And Kenzel Fallon is the CEO and co-founder of Three Keys Coffee, the Houston-born jazz-inspired specialty roastery she and her husband launched in 2019. It's since been sold at Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and more than 120 Walmart locations. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. I appreciate you having us here today.
And as we chat, we welcome you to our conversation with any questions or comments you have about starting and sustaining a business in Houston at 713-440-8870 or talk@houstonmatters.org. All right, let's start at the beginning with each of you. What was the moment when you decided, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to start a business? What was going through your mind? How did you decide to get there? Victoria, would you like to lead us off?
Okay, I would love to. I decided to start a business when I realized that I wanted to be involved in the food industry permanently. Before that, I worked as a waitress, and I thought it was like, something temporary. And once I decided that I really wanted to do it, I also decided that I didn't want to work for anybody based on past experiences.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of underpaid and overworked issues in this restaurant industry. So I wanted to make a difference, not only for myself, but also for my team. And I knew that if I was going to be in this industry, I was going to have to do it myself.
And when was this?
This was back in 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Were there moments as you were contemplating this and deciding to take the plunge where you're like, oh, this is a terrible idea. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. There were times where the first catering I had, I burned everything. I started this business without knowing I knew how to cook the basics, but I was not an expert. I was still in culinary school.
Okay.
And the initial partnership I had with a friend at the time fell through, and her dad, who was our investor, took everything. So I was left with nothing, and I decided to just keep going, even though I still had the name and the brand and a menu, a concept, if you will. So I just started doing pop-ups, even though at the time I didn't know what pop-ups were.
Right. But aside from that, and not really, having the mastery of the cooking part, I mean, what's wrong with starting a catering business?
I mean, there's so many logistics, but it also became kind of fun. It was very intriguing for me, figuring out better ways to do things. I love systems and I love structures, and 10 years later, I'm still like building that, and I think that it was a challenge, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I don't regret it. And if I were to do this all over again, I will do it all over again.
It sounds like a lot learned from trial and error, and maybe what you're getting at is the hardest part is just setting your mind to doing it and starting.
Yes, I think that the hardest part, absolutely right. I always knew I'm great at visualizing, so I always visualize the moment where I am in right now, and this is now like a multi-million-dollar company. But when I started with $500.
Wow.
And I got a tent and a griddle from Academy, and that was it. But because of my vision, no matter how hard it was, no matter how much money I lost, I just knew that I had a purpose, and that kind of always kept me going.
You have a vision and you're driven, you can accomplish a lot.
Yes.
Kenzel, how about you?
Yeah, so Three Keys Coffee was more of a passion project that developed into a business. We didn't really have intentions of making it this, enterprise type of thing. My husband is a mechanical engineer, works in oil and gas, and had started tinkering with roasting at home. I came from a banking background. I worked in enterprise risk management for a bank. And as we started developing more of this love of coffee and experimenting with it at home, we decided we would have a business, quote unquote, but imagine that we would just do, farmers markets or something on the weekend, something fun to do with our kids. The timing of when we started our business ended up being very influential because once COVID came around, a lot of coffee shops were closed. We ended up having a lot of interest in our online store and shipping our beans. And so we actually ended up shipping our beans to all 50 states within our first 6 months of business.
Wow.
And this is while we're still working our day jobs. Trader Joe's had then reached out to us, and we ended up in 43 Trader Joe's locations in our first year. And so it's almost that the business continued to grow and grow legs and start to run in a way where we said, okay, maybe this is a thing, and we need to focus a bit more on developing this as such. And so, I always kind of say we were more like accidental entrepreneurs, but it's been a great journey.
It does also suggest timing is everything.
Absolutely.
And you can't time markets or anything, but the circumstances we were all in really seemed, I guess, to have really benefited this business you were starting up.
Right, absolutely. A lot of times when you're starting a business, your first sales are from friends or family, and that was definitely the case for us. But very quickly, within a couple of weeks, we started seeing orders from strangers. We got something from Seattle, and we got something from New York, and I'm like, what's happening here? And it's because we landed on a few different publications of, roasters that are doing something cool. Our branding was very unique in that it was centered around jazz music. And so we got a lot of interest from people who were in musician communities. And so that just allowed it to gain a lot of traction and interest.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. We're talking with Houston area entrepreneurs Victoria Elizondo from Cochinita and Company and Kenzel Fallon from Three Keys Coffee about starting and sustaining a business in Greater Houston. We welcome your questions and comments at talk@houstonmatters.org or 713-440-8870. All right, so here's the big question I really wanted to ask each of you. If you knew then what you know now, what is one thing you wish you'd had a clear understanding of going into the process of starting a business that, man, if only I'd known that would have gone much more smoothly? Is there something automatically in mind, Kenzel?
For me, I think it comes down to people, who you add to your team, being very intentional around how you expect to expand and grow. With any business, when you start off with just yourselves, there's only so much you can do because you're limited. We're all limited in our individual capacities. And so at some point, you're going to have to hire if you expect to expand. And making sure that whoever we're hiring is aligned with what our values are, making sure that we have folks who are really committed to that. I think along the way, we had this expectation that there would be people who would share in our, passions and beliefs. And a lot of times people view things as just a job. And so, when you're entrepreneurs or you're starting something, obviously we have immense passion and we care a lot about the quality of the product and everything. And it's difficult to find supporting staff who do share in that. I will say that currently we have an amazing team, and I love the folks that support us and keep the business going and growing. But along the way, there were definitely some growing pains on the human resource front.
Yeah, so sometimes it takes a while to find the right team.
Exactly.
But you're saying that, make sure they're passionate about the business the way you are.
Yeah.
Victoria, how about you?
Well, I definitely agree with that. But I would also say that my biggest lesson has been that you don't become more successful by burning out. I burned myself out. It's right before COVID, and it caused a lot of health issues that I'm still dealing with today. And I would just say that I think we come from, I don't know if maybe I'm giving away my age, but we come from like a hustle culture, and I thought that I was doing good by doing just that, and working really hard a lot of hours every day, and it does require that. It does require sacrifice. It does require a lot of long days, long nights, but you also have to remember to take care of yourself and understand that if you're the most important part of the business, so if you're not well, the business is not going to do well.
Yeah. One of the benefits of that hustle culture, though, is that you're probably more open-minded to the idea of there are different ways to make money with this business. My impression of a lot of folks as they are just starting out in business is sometimes they're so single-minded of purpose about they've got this great vision, this great goal in mind, but they're only going to do that one thing. And in both of your cases, you've found ways to have a variety of income streams, right?
Oh, yeah. I always, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something that I tell everybody that asks me about my business is have different streams of income. That is the one thing that I think, I don't think, I'm for sure that saved us and has gotten us to where we are. We have a restaurant, a catering business, a packaged goods line. We do wholesale, we ship, which sounds like a lot, but like she said, if you have the right team and they want to grow and you grow and promote your team within it, it's possible.
Yeah, Kenzel, same thing for you, right?
No, absolutely. Being able to pivot and adjust to different changes is very important. But it's funny, when we started our business, it was just as being a roaster, having the beans that we would roast and bag, and we supply to, coffee shops and restaurants. We never wanted to have a coffee shop of our own. Well, I won't say we. I know my husband's probably listening like, well, I wanted to. But I never wanted to have a retail coffee shop. It just felt like it would be too much to manage. And we had a very amazing opportunity come our way that just was, hard to pass up. And so we opened our first shop 3 years ago. It's downtown Houston in a food hall, the Finn. And that's where we then started to expand more of that, retail presence. And then I started to see the impact in terms of connection with the community and things that were more aligned with how we wanted to grow the business. And so then now we're in the process of trying to open up a couple more shops. So something that, initially when we, put our business plan, quote unquote, to paper was not on our radar, definitely became a core part of our growth strategy. And so it's very important to be able to be flexible and open to opportunities.
Kenzel Fallon is the CEO and co-founder of Three Keys Coffee. Victoria Elizondo is the chef and owner of Cochinita and Company. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just ahead, from ERCOT anticipating record demand on the Texas electric grid this summer to Houston's interstates seemingly creating their own microclimates this week, we contemplate intrigues in the news on the good, the bad, and the ugly as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
I'm Ernie Manus.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
University brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul, music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support comes from Theater Under the Stars, with a 2026-27 season of Broadway musicals, including The Music Man, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Disney's The Little Mermaid. Information about season ticket packages available at tuts.org.
A lot can happen in a week, some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Mary Flood, legal consultant with Andrevet Legal Media and Marketing, Joyce Sowing, news columnist with the Houston Chronicle, and Marco Roberts, chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum. Mary, Joy, Marco, welcome to Houston Matters. Good morning.
Happy to be here.
Panel, ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, essentially the state's traffic cop for the power grid, released its summer forecast this week, and it says the Lone Star State is once again facing record summertime demand, but it's okay. ERCOT says summer demand could reach just over 92 gigawatts. The previous record was 85 in 2023, which, as Houston Public Media's Natalie Weber reported Wednesday, was when the power grid neared failure and the state narrowly avoided rotating blackouts. It also came just 2 years after the deadly winter freeze grid failure that left millions without power or heat. But in the 5 years since that, there has been substantial growth in wind and solar and more modest growth from gas, coal, and nuclear. All told, ERCOT believes there's enough supply to meet demand. CEO Pablo Vegas Tuesday cited, quote, fairly adequate capacity and a low likelihood of emergency conditions in June and July. ERCOT expects record demand on the grid this summer, but supply should be there to meet it. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Mary?
It's bad, Craig, because the fact that the CEO says it's fairly adequate. If you went in for a job performance and they said you've been fairly adequate, you would think you're gone in the next layoff. It's just, yeah, I don't have, maybe if we all clap our hands, Tinkerbell will live and ERCOT will live. I don't have a lot of confidence, which is why I got a generator at my home after the freeze. And now that we've got data centers, and of course Texas has the most, and we've given them tax breaks, including tax breaks on their sales tax and on electricity sales tax. It worries me. It worries me a lot that those eat up not only electricity but water, and look at what's happening in Corpus. It's not good. In this California town, just this week, they voted on whether they would have data centers in their own town, and they said not in my neighborhood by more than 80%. And, I just worry we could get hotter and hotter nights. We're expected to get hotter nights, and we've got all these data centers. And I'd just rather have air conditioning than TikTok.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly. Joy Sewing.
I think it's horrible. I think it's ugly. And I agree with you 100%. And as somebody who was experienced a lot of damage from the winter storm, and where we were in our home, and I never thought I would actually possibly die in my home, but it was so cold that time, and just to see what happened, and so many people lost their lives, and I know that they've gotten better, but still, it's like that trauma behind that. You still think when a storm hits that here we go again. Like, is this going to be another Hurricane Beryl, or is this going to be So I don't have much faith in what they're saying. So,
all right, good, bad, or ugly. Marco Roberts.
Well, let me just say that in the spirit of American democracy and on this Jubilee year in honor of all elected leaders, that it could be either or. I suppose it's a cautionary tale, right? Could be. I'm cautionary good, but I see some of the bad things in it. Republicans like to say that we need more people because we need a bigger tax base. And Democrats say we need more taxes because we have more people. And the good thing about all of this is that, if our economy is doing well, and what they're saying is right, because if the electric demands were going down, then we'd be facing a problem. It'd be something's going wrong with the economy, and so that would be a bad thing. So it seems normal to me that there's going to be record usage every year because we're always going to have more people, even without climate change or whatever else. So I don't see any problems there. I also think it's good because there is seems to be a proactive approach to it. They're talking about it. And it does appear that in the last 3 years, as you said, there's been improvements in the infrastructure. No one seems to deny that. Our energy consumption costs are much lower than those in California. But I am concerned, though, because I kind of do agree with you. Our experience has been, we have been assured before, and it hasn't always turned out the way we were assured. So I think vigilance is appropriate in this case. So I'm cautionarily optimistic that they're saying the right things. And, of course, when you get out there and say the right things, they better be true, because then if they don't come out, then people will come back for you. So
I'm worried that fairly adequate may not be the right thing.
Yeah.
But I love that you waved the flag in the beginning, and still I agreed with a lot of what you said. But I'm also concerned that we're working without a net here, because Texas isn't part of everybody else's grid as well.
That might be true, but it's interesting that if you compare California and Texas, the amount of power outages between the two is actually quite comparable. There hasn't been that much of a difference, obviously not counting what happened in 2021, but since then, we've actually been doing just a slightly bit better than they have been.
Yeah, not counting the bad stuff, we're doing good.
Well, again, in the last 3 years.
Panel, an odd meteorological phenomenon occurred Tuesday when clouds formed directly over Greater Houston's highways. Storm chaser Ethan Mock shared satellite images between 7 and 8 a.m. showing clouds lining up directly over most of our freeways. So were the interstates creating their own microclimate? Space City weather meteorologist Eric Berger thinks, yeah, maybe. He suggested a combination of factors contributed to it, including heat from the concrete rising nearly straight up in light wind and particulates from vehicle exhaust offering nuclei for water vapor to condense around, creating seeds for clouds. He admits it's something he's never seen before, but also notes a recent study co-authored by Texas A&M atmospheric science professor John Nielsen Gammon, which finds how cities can boost pop-up thunderstorms. Greater Houston highways may have helped make their own weather Tuesday. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Joy?
I don't know. That doesn't sound good. I don't know much about meteorology, but that just does not sound
Like we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. So, I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but it just doesn't sound good.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly, Marco.
Well, in that same spirit of democracy, actually, I think it could be either or.
Oh, gosh.
It's a Jubilee year. We've got to celebrate. No, I will say this. I first, when I heard the story, I just thought that, they're exaggerating. It's an exaggeration. But then I saw the video of and I'm like, wow, I was quite impressed. This is quite remarkable. I was also impressed with the modesty of the meteorologist and admitting, I have no idea what this is about, right? That's alarming and yet also reassuring that at least you're being honest. And when you do find out now, I'll believe you, right? But it tells us that clearly we are able to influence the climate. We cannot control it, but we are certainly able to influence it. There's a lot of construction that we're doing in this world that's of great scales. We have these new giant skyscrapers in Asia. One of them is supposed to reach 1 kilometer pretty soon, and they're talking about how that's impacting wind trends and things like that. So I think it's a cautionary tale for us that we could influence. So I'm just saying it's not bad yet, but I would say it could be. I'm just curious. But the other thing I would like to see is I hope someone took a picture from the bottom up to see did they actually see perpendicular lines in the sky? That would be interesting.
Or if they saw God, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be interesting too.
Good, bad, or ugly, Mary.
First to Marco, I also love this country, and I think it's all three. I think it's good, bad, and ugly. Good because it's so cool and interesting, and bad because it, as Joy is saying, it doesn't look like it's really a good thing for us, and ugly because I just don't want to see the horror movie based on
absolutely because we've all seen those end of days movies. We've all seen those.
It could be so ugly. I thought it was interesting. It would seem to me like 290 and 59. I'll still call it 59 till I die.
That's fine.
Seemed to be the ones I could find my house because of it, which was interesting. And also, I love Eric Berger. We used to be seatmates at the Chronicle, and he and the guy at the Washington Post who also covered it both seemed kind of gobsmacked. Like, this is cool, and we don't know what we are surprised. But I am worried. It seems like maybe we have too much pavement, too many that are high up, too much humidity, and I think this may be portending something worse than just a bad hair day.
A question I do have is, has this been seen anywhere else before?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm just wondering.
Not by these guys.
That's true.
It tells us there's still much more to learn about meteorology, which, by the way, is the subject of the movie Pressure, about the few days before D-Day. Very good film.
Okay.
Pointing that out.
On my list.
Moving on. Panel, it's been a rough week over at Instagram. The social media platform had to scramble this week after hackers tricked its own AI support tool into giving them access to other users' accounts. As BBC technology reporter Liv McMahon explained Tuesday, screenshot and videos spread widely show how hackers reportedly changed passwords for other accounts by faking their location and then asking the AI to change the emails associated with them. Meta spokesperson Andy Stone told users on X that the issue has been resolved and that claims world leaders' accounts were hacked were totally false. This despite a report from tech news outlet 404 Media that posts about hacking coincided with, quote, a series of high-profile Instagram account takeovers, including one used by former President Barack Obama. Just how many Instagram accounts were affected is not clear. Instagram's AI support tool is used to hack Instagram. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Marco?
Well, I mean, it is ugly. It's funny, but it's ugly. And I will say, though, that I'm not exceedingly worried about this only because this idea of forgeries and misrepresenting yourself as somebody else is not new. We've done it throughout history. It's always happened. You can go back to the Egyptians or the times of the Romans, and there's always somebody with a fake paper saying, I'm this person, and you're not, right? And so this is always going to happen. I don't think it's ever going to go away. The only thing that's different is the scale of it, right? But at the same time, also the speed of correction is faster. Back 2,000 years ago, someone gave you a fake paper saying this is from, Romulus, and it isn't. You would never know, probably, right? Today, there's a lot more communication going on. So while it's an ugly incident overall, I'm pretty confident that the system seems to be correcting itself, so damage is limited. So I'm not too concerned.
And I'm reminded that that's the subject of the movie Summersby, which was also a very good film. Good, bad, or ugly, Mary?
Thank you, film critic Craig Cohen. I'm saying it's ugly, but what concerned me more, partially because I don't understand all of AI very much, was the reporting on it. BBC's reporting was things like, reportedly this happened. It was said that that happened. And when BBC, which is one of the most solid journalistic medium that we have, starts making everything sort of cushioned, it's very concerning to me. And so it worried me because if you look at what was written about this, it was all these different things. And nobody seemed to agree on what it was. And I'm obviously very concerned about the news media in general. Ever since we have advocate stations that are willing to lie for their cause. And we also have all the propaganda that's put out in this fast moving that you're talking about. It just really worried me that this story was so mushy. Even somebody very legitimate was mushy in reporting it. And Meta coming back and saying something, I thought, I don't trust you guys. My Facebook account keeps being copied. I don't know why anybody wants pictures of me at Astros games. I don't think they're worth that much right now, but I could be wrong.
So you're concerned about the sources being some guy on the internet.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, fair enough. Good, bad, or ugly, Joy?
I think it's ugly too for the reasons both of you all have said. We have gotten used to hacking. We have gotten used to getting emails saying or messages, text messages saying that, our passwords have been compromised on various sites that are much more significant to me than Instagram, sites that have your money where you pay and all that kind of stuff. So, I think it is ugly, but I also think it's become normal. That it's become part of our experience in this social media AI world, that we're going to have this. And like you said, that they worked immediately to try to fix it. So I think companies are playing catch up and trying to get in front of this, but you're always going to have some hackers who are much smarter and who can do it much faster in terms of getting into our accounts. So I don't, ugly, but it's normal.
I think it's just going to be one thing that is true always, and it's certainly for young people to learn, is it's the old Reagan edict, trust but verify.
There you go.
You go about your world.
Trust but verify.
But, always, if something doesn't look right, question it.
Absolutely.
That's Marco Roberts, chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum. Mary Flood's a legal consultant with Androvet Legal Media and Marketing. Joy Sowing's a news columnist with the Houston Chronicle. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
HPM Plus brings you.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Only takes a few minutes to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from Stages, presenting Spamilton, an American parody created by Gerard Alessandrini, the musical comedy with new lyrics tracing the rise of Lin-Manuel Miranda after the debut of his Broadway hit, now through June 21st. Tickets at stageshouston.com.
The annual Houston Pride Festival and Parade is tomorrow. And it's early this year to avoid a conflict with the World Cup. Here to tell us about it is Pride Houston Festival Director Monty Backus. Monty, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
I can. Am I right that this is the first time in 48 years that Pride Houston's holding this the first weekend of June and not the last?
It absolutely is true. Yes, we are making adjustments for FIFA and yeah, absolutely. We're not used to being up this early and celebrating this early, but we are making it happen, and it's going to be a great celebration.
Any concerns at all that the change in schedule could impact turnout this year?
We don't. We think that we're pretty confident that we've gotten the word out, and a lot of people, we have a lot of followers with Pride Houston. And look, to kick off Pride Month, there's no better way to do that than a huge celebration such as a festival and parade. And what we've gotten as far as feedback is they are very eager to come out and have a good time.
Is it otherwise the same sort of schedule as always, or are there differences in this year's parade and festival?
No, same schedule. The festival opens at 11 a.m. and we close festival at 6 p.m. And then, of course, as you know, following right after that at about 7:30, step-off time is our annual parade. We do have the difference. We expanded the festival footprint a little bit, and so we do have a community stage in addition to main stage to celebrate our local talents and give them an opportunity to perform in front of our patrons as well. So we're very proud of that this year.
For those who want to come out, what should they know before they go about parking, the parade route, what you can bring, so forth?
Yes, no, absolutely. So for festival, again, festival time is from 11 to 6. We do have parking at the City Hall Annex. Those tickets are available on pridehouston365.org. That will allow you parking into the annex across the street for festival. The parade parking, obviously there's not a lot of parking space for the parade because the route is so large. But we do have a lot of space for individuals to be able to view the parade.
How important is it to continue to do the annual Houston Pride Festival and Parade, even in a year when there are major events like World Cup matches throughout June?
Yes. We were determined to make this happen, and the city has been extremely helpful in making these adjustments because of events going on later this month. It is super important to us, and we get a lot of questions as to why it's in June. And obviously, it's the celebration of Stonewall and really our community history. And so we find it very important to keep that in June for the celebration each and every single year. And again, we are here for the community to be able to provide a great experience for them. And we were not going to let FIFA nor this rain that we have not seen quite frequent yet downtown ruin our Pride this year. So we are all set and ready to go.
Pride itself is indeed a whole month, of course. I'm just curious what else you're looking forward to this month once the weekend's festival and parade are over.
Yeah, absolutely. We have had a couple of events this week leading up to the great celebration, and typically these events have happened throughout the month of June. We did push them up just to have them ahead of celebration. We had our Rock the Runway this week on Wednesday. We had a splash pool party on Sunday. We do have some couple of community events throughout the month as well. So you'll be seeing us here and there throughout the community. But a lot of our main events for production have already taken place for this week, just leading up to Pride, as it's been a tradition with Pride Houston. But we will have some additional activations that we'll post later this month as well. So we won't be done after this weekend. We will continue engaging the community and having celebrations throughout the month of June.
This year's festival and parade come, of course, after last fall's removal of rainbow crosswalks in Montrose under pressure from the state, which has also passed a law restricting the public restrooms transgender men and women can use. Do those political pushes put a damper on this year's festival and parade, or do you see them as that it's more important, more valuable than ever?
That is a great question, and I get that quite often. And I will be honest, we are very passionate. I'm sorry, there's some noise behind me. We're very passionate about the community. And, look, we know what's going on. And our community engagement team is working harder than ever to ensure that, this doesn't damper not only celebrations throughout June, but also just our community in general. And so we're committed to be able to do that. And, again, we can't control a lot of these government choices and everything that is going on. But the most that we can do is really just stay engaged and stand up for what is right for our community. And that's exactly what we plan to do the rest of the year as well.
Monty Backus is the festival director for Pride Houston. The annual Houston Pride Festival and Parade takes place tomorrow in downtown Houston. The festival starts again at 11 a.m. in Herman Square. The parade's at 7:30 p.m. near Herman Square before traveling down Louisiana Street. There is more information at pridehouston365.org. Monty, happy Pride. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
And that will do it for today's show. The Houston Matters team includes Michael Haggerty, Joshua Zinn, Brenda Valdivia, Mincho Jacob, and Laura Walker. Jared Carroll's our technical director. On Monday's show, we discuss why grocery stores end up located where they are and why some food deserts persist in Greater Houston. We'll welcome your gardening questions for August Stubler, lead sky farmer at the rooftop urban farm, the Blackwood Sky Farm at Post Houston. You can email those questions to talk@houstonmatters.org. And we will preview the World Cup matches taking place here in Houston. The first one is indeed just a week away. I'm Craig Cohen. Have a great weekend. Then join us Monday for those and other Houston Matters.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. Baylor's work centers on